Okay, it's 7:33. We'll call this meeting of the Beaver Dam Common Council in order. It is June 17th in 2024. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Anderson,
Here.
Appenfeld,
Here.
Bonnet,
Here.
Burnett,
Here.
Marie, Fisher,
Here.
Hiley, here, Keel, here, Mark,
Here.
Olson, Perkins,
Here.
Yads,
Here.
Saab.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. Mr. Faree is ill tonight. He is excused. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent deliberation. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time, we'll have a informal public hearing. And that public hearing is really for anyone who would like to speak either online or in person that is not on the agenda. Any item that is not on the agenda. Is there anyone that would like to speak to an item not on the agenda, online or in person? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to announcements. I have a couple announcements. One of them, as most of you probably know, last Wednesday, our former mayor, Tom Kennedy, passed away. We remember Tom working for 20 years in the engineering department, first as a draftsman and later as the engineering coordinator for the city of Beaver Dam. In 2008, Tom was elected mayor of Beaver Dam and continued on for 9 years through 2016. As a respectful custom, members of the Common Council pay tribute to former mayors and alderpersons by attending the deceased visitation and or memorial services. So visitation is Wednesday on June 19th from 5 to 7 at St. Catherine Drexel Church. And again on Thursday from 10 to 11 till the time of the service. Please, if you could, it'd be nice to have as many representatives from the city be there. Thank you. Another announcement comes from the library. They have a Back to the Future extravaganza Saturday, June 29th, coming up in 2 weeks. It's from 11 to 1. The events and activities include story time, lawn games, and more. There's going to be door prizes, and looks like there will be 3 different food venues there also. So a good local event to attend to. Did you have any announcements, Ms. Clerk?
I just wanted to make a correction that visitation for Tom will be Tuesday, June 18th from 5 to 7, and the funeral will be Wednesday, June 9th.
Oh, well, thank you. I better make sure my calendar's right.
Want to make sure you show up.
I might be the only one there. Any other announcements that the alderpersons have? Yes, Alder Zach.
Just wanted to announce that the 3rd annual Beaver Dam Area Pride Fest will be happening on Saturday, June 29th from noon to 7:30 p.m. on the 200 and 300 blocks of South Spring Street. So hope everyone can come down, very family friendly, lots of activities, games, fun stuff happening for all afternoon and free. So thanks.
Okay, thank you, Alder Zach. I do have one more announcement that I have to check on here quickly. This Saturday night, actually starting in the day, the Gold Star Trail, of course, has started in Mayville and it's headed to Beaver Dam. There is a fundraiser for that at Tower Lanes. I'm told that there's live music from 11 to 11. And it's at, like I say, it's at Tower Lanes, a fundraiser for Gold Star. One of the bands that will be playing, and I've been told it's around 8 o'clock in the PM, will be the former Alexis band with all of the family members. So it'd be kind of fun to hear their, it sounds like their last time together, but So anyway, that's a good fundraiser. We're hoping to get that bicycle and walking path hooked up to Beaver Dam. Seeing no other announcements, let's get into the minutes of the June 3rd meeting. Is there a motion to accept those minutes? Alder Burnett. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? I have a second from Alder Bobby Mark. And is there any discussion, any corrections to the minutes? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes from the June 3rd meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to presentations. Okay, the next one is the proclamation of July as Park and Recreational Month. And I have a proclamation to read. That microphone work? So if Jana, if you want to come up to the stand, and also John Newman. Okay, designation of July as Park and Recreation Month. Whereas the Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the city of Beaver Dam. And whereas Park and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks. And whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorder, and Alzheimer's. And whereas Park and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyle. And whereas Parks and Recreation, I can't say that. Parks and Recreation is a leading provider of healthy meals, nutrition services, and education. And whereas Park and Recreation programming and education activities, such as out of school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development. And whereas Park and Recreation increases a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community. And whereas Parks and Recreation is essential and adaptable infrastructure that makes our communities resilient to the face of natural disasters and climate changes. And whereas parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the United States House of Representatives has designated July as Park and Recreation Month. And whereas the city of Beaver Dam recognized the benefits derived from park and recreation resources, now hereby it be resolved, the city of Beaver Dam, that July is recognized as Park and Recreation Month in the city of Beaver Dam. And I thank both of you in Park and Recreation for helping us make it a better city. Thank you. Should have had this a minute ago. Okay, we'll move on to the city administrator's report.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor. And just a comment. I am so proud and privileged to work with Jana and John. They do a phenomenal job, both them and their staff. And so it's good to honor them annually. Tonight, we wanted to take a moment also to recognize some awesome volunteers from the community. The council is well aware of the efforts of the Community Action Planning or Plan Committee. And tonight we wish to formally recognize them with an award for developing their hometown plan of 70 recommendations. Included in the packet, I attached those recommendations as well as a summary that was prepared by the group. We categorized their recommendations by short, mid, and long range projects. You understand that this project began in January. It concluded in May with the group's final presentation taking place on the 16th at the high school. The committee included 40+ volunteers, committing over 1,000 hours of research, discussion, and preparation. And then 2 weeks ago, I was able to meet with a few of the committee members, and we identified good priorities for each the short, mid, and long range categories to focus on. And so if you'll notice in the packet, there were kind of the top 5, but basically those were the ones that we talked about would be good options to kind of focus in on. Clearly, we're not going to do all 70 tomorrow. So I was appreciative of their input. Several of the committee members have expressed continued interest to work on the project to help see these projects come to fruition. And staff will also be reviewing this information with the Plan Commission over the next 4 months. To give you some idea of what's coming next, the Plan Commission is responsible for our comprehensive plan. We've invited a consulting firm to basically review and update the plan with its statistical information, making sure that it's relevant information to date. And we'll be reviewing that plan chapter by chapter with the Plan Commission. There were several projects and recommendations that were presented back when that plan was adopted. Some of them have been completed, others are in process. Many of them are still relevant and are repeated recommendations from this committee. There may be some that will be obsolete, but basically we'll be going through with the Plan Commission and feathering those two, basically the old and inserting the new and receiving comments from the Plan Commission. So that's kind of the next step. But not to get too muddied up in the details, I did want to invite Todd Streeter. He was the facilitator of this project to come and say a few words. Todd, if you want to join us at this microphone. And then after Todd has shared his thoughts and about the project, I wanted to just basically go through and recognize the individuals that participated. If you're here, go ahead and raise your hand. And we do have a little plaque that we'll be handing out afterwards. And so, Todd.
Well, good evening. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, Council, first and foremost, for the opportunity to work with Nathan again, and also to work with your community on this project. It's amazing for me to watch people come into a kickoff meeting with no idea of what they're capable of doing when they decide to work together into a collective group and really focus and come up with some wonderful ideas for the community. And as Nathan alluded to in the summaries, we had over 70 recommendations from this CAP committee, which is the most that we've had in the projects that I've administered in the past. So we think that's absolutely wonderful. And they range from simple ones to ones that are certainly more complex, and you're already on track to understanding what those are all about. But I just want to say that with those 70 recommendations, the question is, what do you do next? It's very difficult for staff and council to do all the heavy lifting within the community. We all know that. But through this experience and with these projects, you have a whole team of community now behind you, and some who can't be here tonight, to help you move forward with not just these recommendations, but potentially in other capacities civically within Beaver Dam. And then the other thing is that the Oversight Committee, the Advisory Committee is essential to helping both the city and the community continually work together, continue this process of participation and involvement. And the one thing that is clear on every one of these processes is not just the recommendations themselves, it's the buy-in that the community brings to this process. They're representative of the rest of your community, and they're kind of like community ambassadors, if you will. And they stand ready to help Beaver Dam achieve any one of these recommendations that have come forth. But it's really important because you want to keep the community involved through this process. You want to expand that buy-in. You want to have that input, and you want to have collective ownership. When you achieve those things, then anything is truly possible. And a lot of that also has to do with leading to local funding. And you do have a community foundation within your community, so you have the mechanisms and the tools at your disposal to help this community. You also have the opportunity to perhaps have professional pro bono people step up and want to work on any particular project and lend their expertise to those projects at perhaps low cost or maybe even no cost to keep things going. And you'll want to create marketing. You'll want to keep the word out. You want to try to keep people involved with this process as much as possible moving forward. So ultimately, you've got these 70 exciting opportunities for Beaver Dam. Again, I congratulate the committee, those here and those who cannot be here, for all of your hard work and everything that you did during these 5 months. And again, I just want to thank you for this opportunity that you've given for myself and for Beaver Dam. And I have the world of confidence that you'll be stepping forward and making great strides with your community moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Todd. So those that are present, I'll just go through, read off the names. You know, we could do that. I will admit though, I did not organize those plaques, so it may be a little bit difficult, but they are identified by name. Yeah. Do we want to go up and do that? We can do that. So something cool about these plaques is we basically, the community action plan, they created a logo, basically, to kind of identify their plan. So we created just a nice little plaque with the hometown plan logo with your name. So hopefully you'll display it proudly, but we're grateful for your efforts in that regard. So we're gonna try to do this, and hopefully it won't be too sloppy.
It'll go.
But it will go. So want to recognize Megan Turner. She's not here. Yep. And if you're not here, don't worry. But if you are here, come up. Ronnie Harper, Jim Bradley, Carrie Wolfgram,
Congratulations. Thank you much for your work.
Aaron Grunwald, Darren Teal, Nancy Toll, Seth Alborn, Zach Hansen.
Thank you.
Seth, I believe,
Seth?
right here.
Okay.
Then we've got Irv Monroe, Christy Lund,
Irv, I know you're here. I saw you. Here you are. Thanks for your help with that.
Adam Pfister, Alexi Gray, Juanita Garcia, Margene Westland, Adam Pfister, sorry, right here.
Got it.
Gerald Lund. Salim Mohammed. Katie Kramer. Erna Rudder. Mike Zimmer. Kim Metalberg. Ken Thomas. Roger Knoll. Lauren Alston. Isabel Lehner. Chris Gansky. Wayne Owen. Rich Dahl.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mark DeStefano. Steve Ime. And Brandon Kraus. I think Steve is our last.
All right.
So with that, if we can just give a round of applause. And then I would welcome any comment if council members would like to make a comment, now would be your time, so.
I'll make a comment.
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
I just want to say that on the council, I attended, I think, 2 of your working sessions, and each one of them were impressive. I mean, the interactions and the enthusiasm was really a pleasure to see. So great job.
Yes, Alder Mark.
And I attended both the open house at the Watermark and your final session at the high school. And again, I was very impressed with the detail, the research that you put in, and it was just really fun to see some of your ideas. And we truly appreciate the hours that you put in, because we know how much effort it took. So thank you very much.
Alder's up.
I also very much appreciate the work of your group and team. I'll just make a request that if there's something that you really are passionate about, contact your alder, work with your alder, work with us, get that on the front burner, right? We work together well, right? So we community council, we can work together. You are a motivator. Please motivate us. Or we have this in front of us, but you will immensely help get us to where you want the city to go. So please help. Thank you.
Yes, Kay.
I just want to thank all of you for caring about your community and trying to make it a better place. And I concur with both Bobby and Zach. Please contact us if you have something passionate you want to be moving forward. And I thank you all for the quality of work that I saw when I attended your demonstrations at the high school that evening.
All really good comments. Okay, we're gonna move on. And again, thank you very much.
If I can just close real quick, I just again want to thank the volunteers and just your support and your efforts. And to the council, we'll continue. Those that are willing to continue to work with us, we'll continue to be meeting with them and incorporating their comments with the Plan Commission. We're excited to see the comprehensive plan be finalized. And so again, I want to thank them for the hours that they spent. And with that, I'll close. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And you're invited to stay for the rest of the boring meeting, or you can leave. It might get exciting. You never know. Okay, I was going to go back to Nathan, but one of the other announcements, are we still on announcements? No, This is part of the city administrator's report. I'm going to report for him because he's back there chatting. So as you probably have noticed, there has been no action on the first ward, first district alderperson vacancy. We've posted it. It went out for several weeks. We've got no response. So it is open. If you know anyone in the first district, certainly ask them to come in and make known. I do have a short list of about 12 people that I looked at the map of the district and wrote their names down because I've had some acquaintance with them. That doesn't mean that necessarily that's who's interested or anything like that. But the process will be that whoever, hopefully we'll get someone to come and fill that position. They will need to go to the clerk's office, fill out the typical application. So we have all the information on record and we can do background checks and things like that that are done. So Nathan, just wrapping up the first district conversation.
Understood.
Did you have anything else in your report?
No,
Okay.
I figured that would be sufficient. so.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to communications. Clerk Farren, is there any communications?
There are no communications this evening.
Okay, that's an easy one. So now we move on to approving the bills, money spent between May 31st and June 13th. Is there a motion to approve those bills? Alder Mark,
I'll make a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $997,474.78.
okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Alder Burnett. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or corrections on the bills? Okay, all in favor of paying the bills? Or do you need to do a roll? Okay, all in favor, say aye. And against paying the bills, say no. Any abstentions? One abstention? Okay,
Who abstained for the record?
Fisher. Okay, moving on to ordinances. We're looking at ordinance 7/2024.
Ordinance number 7-2024, an ordinance repealing and replacing section 62-13 neighborhood electric vehicles of the Beaver Dam Municipal Code. This is a second reading.
Being a second reading, we'll open it to the public for a public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to address this ordinance either in person or online? Is there anyone that would like to address electric vehicles ordinance? Is there anyone in person or online that would like to discuss this ordinance? Seeing none, we'll close the open public hearing and move on to maybe in motion or do we? So I'd like a motion on the ordinance. Alder Zopp.
Make a motion to approve the revised ordinance.
Okay, and is there a second to that motion? Alder Perkins.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there other discussion? Any questions about the updating of that ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Anderson,
Aye.
Appenfelt,
Aye.
Bonnet,
Aye.
Burnett,
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Wiley,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Perkins,
Aye.
Yads,
Aye.
Zap.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. We'll now move on to the ordinance 8-2024.
Ordinance number 8-2024, an ordinance amending section 10-21 rabies control program of the Beaver Dam Municipal Code. This is a second reading.
Okay, being a second reading, we will also have a public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on the ordinance addressing rabies control program in the Beaver Dam Municipal Code? Is there anyone in person or online that would like to comment on this ordinance? Is there anyone here or online that would like to talk on the ordinance on rabies control program for Beaver Dam Municipal Code? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and looking for a motion to approve from the council.
Make a motion to approve?
Okay, Alder Keel and second
second.
by Alder Zop. Is there any discussion on this ordinance? Yes, Mr. Anderson.
Could we just get some background on what's needed and what changed and whatnot?
Okay, can someone give a brief summary on this one?
Sure, I can chime in on this. So our current ordinance lacks the quarantine requirement. And so under state statute 9521. And so it was oftentimes what would happen is it would be required to go to the circuit court, right? It'd go to the county. And the DA expressed that this isn't necessarily the best use of their time, and so requested to make this put this within our city ordinance. So Attorney Devitt worked to prepare it. The red line is in the ordinance. It's basically pulling from 9521 and follows basically the same pattern that we would have with the circuit court. Chief Kreitzinger, I don't know if there's anything else that you would add, but that's at least that's how I understand it.
Does you have other questions?
Any other questions on the ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Appenfeld,
Aye.
Bonnet,
Aye.
Burnett,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Hiley,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Perkins,
Aye.
Yuds,
Aye.
Zop,
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Ordinance number 8-2024 passes unanimously. So now we'll now move on to resolutions.
Resolution number 51-2024, a resolution executing an offer to purchase city-owned property lot 1 CSM 5302 in the city of Beaver Dam.
Okay, and Trent Campbell's coming forward to introduce this.
Got it. All right, good to be with you. Wanted to talk to you this evening about a residential project we've been working on. We're working with an entity called Premier Real Estate Management. And as we go through this process, you'll probably also hear them referred to as Pre3, another company name that they go by. They are a highly respected, very professional apartment construction and management company with a very long and successful track record. Our conversations have been on a relatively quick pace and calendar. In a perfect world, I think these guys would like to be in the ground yet this year, footings and foundations beating the freeze. And to do that, the pace of all of this typical process needs to be expedited. Talk about the location. I'll give you a brief description of the actual project and the hopeful terms that we're going to have. And then action, hopefully from you guys, which is going to be in the form of a purchase agreement. That's really a step in a multi-step process to get this project to the finish line. A development is a requirement of said purchase agreement, and that would come back to you at a later date with more project details. And frankly, the entity involved here has about 120 days of a due diligence period to check all of their own boxes, work with the city on our relationship and our participation and all of those types of things. So the site itself is behind Goodwill, so up at the north end of Francis Lane. behind Goodwill to the west, that would be, and north of the Walmart Supercenter. It is 9+ acres, and this project would absorb all of that. And the history of that site, I mean, that goes way back when the Supercenter was developed and then the subsequent outlets. The development entities that we were dealing with didn't have a need or a use for this particular 9 acres. It was a true remnant lot. And the city gladly accepted that at no cost at the time. And it has sat idle for a considerable amount of time. It's got its challenges from a development perspective, but also certainly has advantages in terms of location and 151 visibility. And of late, with the housing shortage, we have had numerous conversations with developers that have had an interest in potentially developing the site. The project we're before you with tonight has been by far the strongest business proposition for the city. And we're dealing with this stable professional group, but it really has been a win-win proposition to this point. The project itself would consist of 60 total apartment units. There would be 5 individual 2-story buildings with 12 units in each of those buildings. Like I said, they're hopeful if process can keep moving forward, that construction would start yet this year, later on this year. The buildings would have fire safety sprinkler systems. The building materials would consist of some form of cement board siding with masonry accents. An attractive landscape is desired and anticipated. The site would need to be zoned to multifamily, currently commercial. We'll talk a little bit about the calendar of that at the tail end of the discussion. Sorry, I keep turning around to see you guys, but this would not require a PUD designation and the heavy process that is associated with that. The real business terms of this, and this is what we're efforting, and there still are some variables involved as we work through development agreement, due diligence. The effort of both parties, city and developer, is that the city would convey this site that we've described for, well, I guess it's actually $100, Larry, but it's land conveyance, and the attorneys have settled on the $100 number. We would attempt to negotiate a clawback provision to make sure the city is protected in the event of non-development or non-performance. Again, that would come back to you in the form of a development agreement. We're hopeful, and we are efforting not to form a TIF district for this. If the developer can handle all related costs to their project and the only contribution to make the math work is the site, we would like to avoid the creation of TID and any further city incentives. Like I said, there are a few variables involved with them costing out, hitting budget numbers, city requirements, and a variety of other things that could still have some impact on cost. And that's not cemented, but that's what we're targeting right now. In any event, and terms and agreement would come back to you in the form of a development agreement. The site is city-owned. It currently doesn't generate any taxes. And if we could do this without TID, the estimated value of the project, very rough estimate based on their history and assessed value per unit of these types of apartments, would be about a $6.6 million taxable value creation that could go right to the roll and not have, like we often have, you got to work through TIF districts and the related retirement of those. So that's very attractive to us. And we obviously need the housing units, right? We've talked repeatedly, whether it's owner occupied, whether it's rental, whether it's executive, family, workforce, we need them all. There's a drought in really all of those areas. So not only would this provide positive economic impact for the city, it would also help take a bite out of the housing shortage problem. With regard to schedule, we're looking at the June 26th Plan Commission meeting to try to get the multifamily rezoning process started. It would come back to council, the rezoning, ideally on July 1 and July 15 for the first and second readings, and to finalize the rezone process. And then it's as quickly as we can all work through with the developer, all of the terms, making sure their due diligence is complete. Larry will keep everybody on track in terms of development agreement. They have a very seasoned attorney that has done this many, many, many times. So we will try to get back in front of you as quickly as possible, discuss details. But like I said, this is step one, giving them land control so they have reason to do all of this due diligence and make sure that this is a viable project for them. I'd be happy to answer any questions. We went open session. You guys often see me in an initial setting and closed. This is a relatively simple deal, not steeped in negotiations, at least at this point. Open session made sense, and we're hoping to get land control over to these folks and try to get a good project into the ground here in the coming months. Yes, sir.
I have a couple questions for you. How high are the buildings gonna be? They're gonna be single story, 2-story?
5 2-story buildings, and they'd have 12 units in each of those buildings. And you can see Todd's got the rough layout on the site now up on the screen. Again, this is still somewhat fluid as they work through grading plans and related costs and topography and finalizing discussions with our fire department and city approvals and all those kinds of things. But they're aiming for individual entrance, the garages in building, and yeah, 5 12-unit buildings, 2 stories each.
Parking, is that gonna be inside, outside?
Yes, so again, they're anticipating garages, and then you're also seeing some stalls to get Moose comfortable and happy, to make sure the parking ratios are where the city needs them to be.
And one last question, what is the rent basis? Is that gonna be mid-range, high range, low range?
Yeah, so they haven't locked in on an exact number. These are gonna be on the higher end rentals for Beaver Dam. And it has to be for the economics of this deal to work. If the rents are lower, there's gonna be a tit ask, okay? Like the gap, the financial gap would get bigger with lower rents, and they would be asking for incentivization. Like I said, we believe we have a shortage, rental, owner occupied, and at every level. So every effort we can make to address that is a positive. By the way, I should say one more thing. This is a rarity, okay? I mean, I've probably dealt with maybe a half a dozen of entities like this in the last year to year and a half. And others have probably had their own experiences. This is the only residential project we have had that has not had an incentive ask beyond land. And I'm telling you, I don't want to share, I guess, elements of some of their recent deals, but the TID awards out of other projects have been a substantial fraction of what's created. So they really like Beaver Dam. Mr. Aiken and Mr. Murray have an affection for Beaver Dam. They've had a successful project. Mr. Aiken's had multiple successful projects here and in the area. They believe in the community and our growth. They're excited about some of our recent projects, and they think we have momentum and it's going to be a good market for them. Frankly, they're willing to take a lesser cash on cash return than many developers are. And they have their own reasons for that, and it fits their business model, and they're strong financially, so they have certain advantages. But we're real fortunate, I think, to be involved with this group on this project at this time. We don't want to play with it. We want to get it to the finish line before anything could change in that regard. And this won't be the norm as we do housing projects as we've done in the past and we hope to do in the future. The gaps are usually wider. There will be TID components. This is a unique and good opportunity for us to try not to have TID as long as the numbers don't get squirrely on us. Interest rates can't go up or their pro forma is going to change. And there's a variety of development factors that are still variable till we get that DA signed and done.
Alder Anderson, do you have a question?
Yeah, so do they already have the easement for the driveway south of the
Goodwill.
Goodwill?
Yeah, so the city wisely with going all the way back to Mike Lau made sure that there was a utility and access easement between those two properties. Now, you know, it hasn't always been the most development convenient because it's kind of a flagpole entrance into the site. It's a longer linear foot utility run. But that is easement granted, yeah.
Okay. Trying to think what else. So in this agreement, we're going to sell them the land for $100.
Mhm.
What's the contingent? Since we don't have a development agreement right now,
Yeah, so.
what if they don't? I guess my concern
Yeah.
is we sell it to $100, they have ownership.
No, I got you.
What happens?
So the development agreement is a contingency to close with this purchase agreement. The purchase agreement is that structurally. It really almost takes the form of an option with a 120-day due diligence period. And absent a development agreement, it can't go to closing.
Okay.
So that, you know, you guys will get a review of final terms. And that's where I said, we will be attempting to negotiate a clawback in the event the land does get transferred, right? And they don't develop, whether it's a purchase price that they would owe the city, take backs, there's a variety of forms that we can talk about, but we'll get you guys protection.
Yes, Alder Appenfeld.
Wow, so formal. Thank you. Is this on city water and sewer?
It will be. So the water and sewer go up to Goodwill at this point, and it will be brought in and run through the entire project. We're having discussions internally with the city and the developer and the fire department, looking for best practices and dealing with the economics and all that stuff. But yes, it will be municipal served.
Alder Zopp.
There's that kind of hollow spot between the north building and the string of 4 buildings. Is that like open park space? I'm just kind of curious what that.
Trent, if I recall,
That one.
the property developer really likes trees and green space and wanted to make sure that there was green space for this development.
They're correct. I don't know that they have, like I said, it took them a fair amount of work to figure out the building fit, making it attractive. Nathan's right. Cal likes trees. Hopefully this is going to get greened up. I don't know that they've determined that. I don't think it was denoted as stormwater because they've done
It was
that
stormwater.
on a different area.
Right.
I think that's a TBD probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trent, I recall asking that specific question.
Okay.
And that was the comment was I asked if it was going to be potentially another, like a future build. And the comment was that they like green space.
Good.
So the intent, I believe, is green space.
Thank you, because there's not much for residential use out that way, right? And because of that, there's also not much for parks or open space. It's very much farms and stores
Mhm.
and not much in between. So knowing that if that could be reserved for the tenants, otherwise I don't know how we would get these residents on a level with amenities that residents within the city get park wise, right? There's just, they would physically have to drive into the city to access a park, whereas most residents in the city can walk to a park. These residents wouldn't have that. So if you could express that green space is important, at least in my opinion, for these residents.
We will pass the sentiment along
Okay.
and look, I mean, I think any residential development in Beaver Dam is going to have its own characteristics and developments, and that's what either draws people to it or pushes them away from it. So they believe that there will be a strong market for at least these 60 units with what they're proposing. So, but
Alder
yeah, we'll
Anderson?
sure
Oh,
pass along the interest in green space.
So one more point, we've kind of talked about sidewalks in this area many times. But now we're getting residents on the north side. We've had the kicker of we have residents on the south side now. Now we have residents on the north side of this commercialized area. And at what point are we gonna say it is time to run sidewalks down Francis Lane? And that's what I'm starting to wonder. Will this developer agreement have a sidewalk built into that easement south of Goodwill? I mean, I see a road,
So-
but could there be a sidewalk?
Yeah, so I guess a couple of things, and Todd, I won't play engineer too much, but there's a real grade issue, first of all.
Right,
You know, as you get to the site edge, and then it really does become economics. Everybody we've talked to about this site, we have that conversation, Zach. And number one, there's a physical issue to deal with. And number two, there will be a financial issue. This project at their cash on cash return cannot afford any deviations or variations, or we're going to be supplementing it locally. And so I don't expect to see them propose, and we've even brought it up, and they were, you know, I think candid, saying it would be very difficult for them to make that part of their development.
Okay.
What the city wants to do in that area is certainly fair game for conversation, though.
right. So I guess I envision if they can't make the numbers work, residents could walk down the driveway to get to Francis Lane, but then they become our responsibility. Are these residents gonna be walking on grass to go from the building, their apartments to Walmart, Arby's, or, you know, coffee, wherever, I mean, or are we gonna put in sidewalks for them? Because there's so many different things down there for these folks to access on foot, and they'll be walking in grass or on Francis Lane. So yeah, I guess a discussion for a different day on that. I know we discussed it once, but now this might change our calculus. So, but thank you. I agree. This is a nice jewel of an opportunity that they're doing this without incentivizing more city incentives. So this is a nice opportunity. So thank you.
You bet.
Alder Anderson, was there another question?
Actually, just same two things. Just make sure that there's green space, but it sounds like they have plans for that. Preferably green space that they maintain, not another city park that we have to get out there to maintain. So as long as they maintain it, that would be great.
That would be their intent, and John
Yes.
already is looking forward to getting that one off
Yeah.
the list.
So there's
So-
that, and then yes, the sidewalk issue. I guess I'm all right, you know, just walking through the parking lots. I'm fine with that. But yes, I guess I would just be looking for the north side, the North Crystal Lake Road frontage to have a sidewalk. And you know, again, no one wants to do it because it's all commercial out there, but I think we really need to do sidewalk all the way up there, at least on one side. And the thing is, it's not gonna cost this developer any money. You know, maybe if they don't do the North Crystal Lake frontage, but that would be very minimal to do the frontage there. But it's really all the existing ones along Francis Lane that we're gonna have to special assess for sidewalks. And you know, shame on us in the past for not requiring them to put that in. But they're there, they're established, we do a special assessment. They can't really say no. So, I mean, now it's time we really need to do that. Especially if this, you know, if this goes through and they really build that many apartments, everyone's gotta have sidewalks to connect, so we're gonna have to put that in there. I mean, yeah, they're not gonna pay for it, but everyone else out there is gonna pay for it.
Alder Burnett?
That's just coming.
Actually, that subdivision that's north of this, is that city? I don't know.
No,
No, it's not. because there is a subdivision right to the north.
Yes.
Yeah. Tom,
Um,
Fit-
I just have a background question and you really kind of hit at it, but it was, when I read your proposal, it was like, how much did the city pay for this 9 acres of land? And I think you covered it in your opening comment. You said we got it free?
well, yeah, but I don't want to be disingenuous. Like there originally there was an investment when the city purchased that land. Man, I think from the Fernac and Kellum families at the time. So there was an investment. My point was, once the developer had control of all that land, Walmart, the outlots in front of it and the land behind it, as the development plan carried out, it got conveyed back to the city. So at the back end of the deal, it wasn't as if the city purchased it, but they had initial investment to get all the land pre-development. So yes and no would be the,
So it's free or not? No.
yeah, it was free when they acquired it this time and in this situation. I just didn't want to, I just want to make sure I'm being forthright. Originally, there was an investment to acquire the land with TID dollars, and it just wasn't part of their overall development plan at the end of the day. And then we gladly took it back. What was our harm? We knew we would have an asset. Time was on our side. Well, I mean, for this very, we might end up with 6.6 million in housing on it, right? So,
No, and I appreciate that. I guess I was just looking at it, kind of from a community member point of view. They're gonna see 60-unit apartment going up and they're gonna hear that the city sold them the land for $100.
mhm.
That doesn't look right. And, I mean, but I'm saying that's, you can't, nobody can ignore that.
Yeah, no, the reality is right now in markets like Beaver Dam and many, many others, unless home prices or rentals are crazy high, there is a gap right now between building costs, the cost of money, and we're seeing, that's what I was saying, we're seeing asks and aggressive asks by almost all residential developers, as are other communities. Projects very similar to this are getting land and most of their own new tax increment that they create back for a pretty long schedule of time. That's why we're saying we're very fortunate if all we are putting into this is land, because we're kind of beating the market trend. And I get it. It is free land and it is an incentive, but we're at a lower scale incentive than the vast majority of these projects are right now, absent some other unique communities with real benefits, demographically and income wise.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds really good. One more question.
Yeah.
You said something about the value is 6 million? Or
6.6 estimated.
6.6. How does that convert into the city in terms of tax revenue?
So let me
About-
do really easy math. Like let's just say your tax rate was 20 instead of 1979. It'll make my brain work a little better. So for every $1 million created, that would be 20,000 a year in property tax or increment if it's a TID, but in this case, property tax. So on 6.6 million, you'd have 120,000 and 60% of another 20,000, like 132,000 maybe, math close enough. Somewhere in that range is the new taxes that would be coming in annually. And then that's being shared by all the jurisdictions. So if the city is roughly 50% of that pie, half of that money would be going to the city, VOTEC, school, county would get their own slices of the pie on a percentage basis.
So then if the city decided to kind of nurture the investment, what was talked earlier about sidewalks and everything else, if we had to run a half a mile of sidewalks down Francis Lane, I don't know how much that would cost, but that eats up $60,000 real fast, I'm assuming. But anyway.
Yeah, and I'll stay out of
That's-
Nathan's kitchen. Then you're getting into levy issue. There are many layers to what you can and how you spend it and all these. And then if you want to use TID or not use TID, if you use TID, the city keeps all of that revenue during the life of the district, right? Now, it's not going out to the jurisdictions. It's also not providing any tax relief initially. There's many, many ways to look at it. If the city is going to want, if the city has wants tacked on to what we've already talked to the developer about, it's gonna have to be funded. And the developer, in a transparent fashion, has showed us they're thinned out. Like, we're not gonna get any more out of this deal on their end. So then it would be those types of discussions. If the city wants X, Y, and Z, what's the best way to pay for them? Is it worth that investment or not? Those are conversations we're gonna have to have before a DA gets formally approved.
Yeah, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
And just a general comment too, as far as the comparison between a great development like this and one that ends up in TID, the TID can wait 20 years before we see any tax benefit. Where this one, we should be able to see it, I would say within 2 years of today's date, we'll start getting some tax benefit. Alder Fisher.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think in this climate of interest rates, et cetera, we should just not look a gift horse in the mouth. And all they're asking is to approve this offer to purchase, and there's 120-day clawback. So I don't, once we get into the development agreement, then all the questions with sidewalks and setbacks and everything else can be answered. But to that end, I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 51-24.
Okay, we have a motion, and Bobby?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Alder Mark seconds that. Was there any other discussion? Hearing none? All in favor?
That would be a voice vote.
And
Okay,
the memo says that there might be some tweaks, but the agreement in its final form is in front of you. There's no more changes. So that's what you're voting on today is the final.
okay. And we do need a roll vote.
Bonnet,
Aye.
Burnett,
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Hiley.
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Perkins,
Aye.
Yads,
Aye.
Sop,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Eppenfeld.
Aye.
Okay, resolution 51-2024 passes, and thank you very much, Trent, for your presentation and for all the work you've done putting this one together. Resolution number 52.
52-2024, a Class B and Class C licenses to 1934 Event Center, 198 West Street.
Okay, you have a resolution in front of you. Is there a motion to accept? Alder Appenfeld. Okay, we have a motion by Alder Appenfeld, Alder Burnett. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion or questions? If anybody doesn't know what that 1934 Event Center is, that's actually the old American Legion building on the end of Front Street. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Oh, you got a roll
Need a roll
call. Go ahead.
Burnett,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Hiley, Keel,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Perkins,
Aye.
Yads,
Aye.
Sop,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Eppenfeld,
Aye.
Bonnet.
Okay, resolution 52 passes. We'll move on to resolution 53.
Resolution number 53-2024, a temporary Class B license to Best Damn Fest.
Okay, is there a motion to approve Alder Hiley?
I'll make a motion to approve liquor license.
And is there a second?
I
Alder Mark,
second.
I'm sorry, Alder Keel as a second. Is there any discussion or questions on this resolution? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Fisher.
Aye.
Hiley. Keel.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Perkins.
Aye.
Yads.
Aye.
Sop.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Eppenfeld.
Aye.
Bonnet.
Aye.
Burnett.
Aye.
Okay, resolution carries. And
Resolution number 54, I will preface this by stating that the issuance, the dollar amount of the issuance was lowered today with the bid opening. So I will read the resolution with the correct dollar amount for that. Resolution number 54-2024, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of $11,010,000 general obligation promissory notes, series 2024A.
Okay, we have a resolution in front of you. Is there a motion to accept? Alder Burnett,
I'll make a motion to accept.
we have a motion. Is there a second? Alder Zap.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Questions? Alder Yuds.
Is this all new money for a new, from, I guess I'm asking, is this from any, last year's loans or anything like that in the past? Or is this all new requests for this year?
So just an FYI, Harry, from Ellers, presented, a council meeting ago. This is what was budgeted for debt service for this year. So it includes the CIP projects for, both the general fund, the sewer, water, wastewater, and, utilities.
Any other questions? Don't see any. So go ahead and call the roll.
Hiley,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Perkins,
Aye.
Yuds.
Aye.
Zap,
Aye.
Anderson,
No.
Appenfelt,
Aye.
Bonnet, Burnett,
Aye.
Fisher.
No.
Okay, we have a positive count there.
Mhm.
All right, the resolution did carry. Thank you, Harry, for being on board. Okay, moving on to my next page, discussion and direction. So we need to have ordinance number 6 read again? Or not? Okay, I guess not. It's a continuation of previous ordinance number 6, updating certain charter ordinances. I'd like to have this conversation, maybe go till like 9 o'clock and then cut it off. So let's see what we can accomplish. Alder Fisher.
Continuing where I was speaking when we discontinued discussion at the last meeting, I'm opposed to setting up the new executive committee. I just don't see where we need another committee that reports to the council on something that the council should be responsible for in the beginning. So I would be voting to not have a new executive committee, having understood where that committee began and the fact that there is no such committee at this time.
Okay. Why don't we take that section and just talk about it? Is there other?
So for everyone's, so we're, to bring us back to where we were 2 weeks ago. For today, we're on page 132 of your packet. And that is on that sort of underline and strike through version of the ordinance, section 3. And what I just heard was a suggestion that we eliminate the executive committee from this ordinance, in which case, if you look on page 131, the previous page, the words classification, compensation, employment, appeal, hearings of employees, except as provided for via optional powers of the Police and Fire Commission, that would also be restored because that was moved into the executive committee. So as you're thinking about whether or not to do it, if you don't do the executive committee, restore that struck out provision on page 1, the bottom of page 131.
Okay. So the executive committee is, which paragraph is that? Right here. Okay, -3. So would you like to discuss that separately? Alder Zap?
I recall, Alder Appenfeld requested some legal guidance on the powers, the reporting duties, right? That there might have, we were supposed to get reported back on updated language for what the, who Who would they report to, or what was your request, Alder Appenfeld?
At this point, there isn't transparency on A, C, and D as presented for the executive committee. As you look at the operations, as you look at the administrative committee, the output from those committees comes back to the common council in the form of resolutions to be voted on. As you look at the executive committee, it doesn't give any transparency as to how to report the actions that this committee does. And so therefore, I feel there should be more transparency to report back to the common council.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
and where we left off on that is if the council decides to keep the executive committee, we will add this. So to Alder Appenfeld's point, you see above on page 131 and 132, when you read the existing language for the administrative committee and the operations committee, the introductory clauses under 1 and 2, they say that those committees, it says that those committees are responsible for review and recommendation of. So if you decide to have keep an executive committee in this ordinance, we'll clarify that those tasks are to be recommended back to the council.
Alder Fisher?
Just let me repeat, I think I said this at the last meeting, but I don't remember. My main objection to this executive committee is that the mayor will be chairing this. The mayor also appoints the chair of the administrative committee and the operations committee. So now we've got the mayor appointing the chairs, which will also serve on this committee. So that to me tells me that we've pretty much got 3 votes locked in there. Because obviously you're not going to appoint somebody to the committee chairmanship that you don't think should be there. Then you've got the council president and 2, am I correct that with the 2 at-large alder persons that are selected by who?
The council.
The council, okay. I think it's too easy to load that committee.
Alder Anderson?
I think just to that point, that was my concern also, which is why I believe we added the council president and then 2 at large, if you'd call them. So at least it'd be even. And I don't think the idea isn't for them to the committee to actually take action. It would be for them to bring recommendations forward to the entire council. Kind of like the planning commission. So though the planning commission reviews stuff and then they just forward their recommendations onto the whole council. So the executive committee would do kind of the same thing. They would look at everything and then bring a recommendation forward to the whole council. So the whole council would then vote on it. I don't think they would be making any action
Yeah, the only exception to that is the performing the function of the appeal body for the employment appeal hearings. If there's if a member of the staff appealed an employment action, that would be, they would be the decision makers in that respect, as it is currently with the admin committee. The admin committee performs that role today. And that's a subset of the council, but only half. So this would be 6 people instead of 7, well, 5 council members and the mayor. Yeah. That's the only exception to that.
Alder Mark?
So just so I'm clear, if we do not approve the executive committee, then going forward, the administrative committee will be responsible for evaluating the process of evaluating the city administrator?
No. So the ordinance will be silent on that point, and so it will be the mayor's role as the head of the executive arm of the city to decide how to set up, as former Mayor Gluen did last summer. She convened the chairs of the committees and the council by her choice to conduct the reviews. Unless there's something in contract with a particular administrator, it would just be up to the mayor to decide how to do that.
But specifically, Bobby, to your question, the appeal process would revert back to the administrative committee. So,
If I misunderstood, I thought you.
no, you understood correct.
Yeah.
We just want to clarify that the appeal process would go back to the administrative committee. The process of evaluation would then go back to the mayor and they would decide.
So to Alder Fisher's point, if we don't create this committee, the mayor could just do that review on their own or with anyone that they chose. This at least creates an expectation of everyone of how that will happen. Now, the mayor doesn't make the final decision. To Alder Anderson's point, council would have to make a decision, but it's just a matter of who, if he wants to dictate in the ordinances who's in that room or part of that process, this is one way to do it.
Alder Fisher?
I'm gonna, let Alderman Zopp speak first.
Alder Zopp.
Thank you, Alderman Fisher. So it's a safeguard. So Attorney Konopacki basically said by having this committee, it's a safeguard against future mayors from convening whomever they want to decide on how to rate the city administrator, right? So that's a valuable asset that we all as a council know what's going to happen in the future. I'm glad that we have the 2 extra at-large members plus the council president. I think there's been concern about that. What if the mayor stacks the deck? Well, even if that were to happen and the mayor stacks their 3 and you got the counterparting 3, it acts like the Wisconsin Elections Commission, right? You got 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats. And they're set up to be deadlocked unless they can come to a mutual agreement. Well, that's the same setup we have here. You got to get the mayor and the mayor's appointees plus the at-large alders to agree. Otherwise, you're not going to get, there's no tiebreaker in there. It's a 3-3 theoretically. So they're set up to come to a mutual agreement in the best interest of the city. So I like the setup that we have, and I like the safeguard of having it. So.
In this case, though, the function of the committee would be mostly to determine the manner in which it will gather information and share it with the council for a council decision, whereas like with WAC, they're making their decisions.
Right, but the
And so-
framework, they have to come
For the
up with
framework, right, so that.
agree to that framework, or
Right.
agree to.
So arguably,
employees.
a majority of the council would pick 3 members and, right, and as Alder Anderson said, the mayor would have a seat and also their 2 chairs. Obviously, there's agreement amongst people on different topics and disagreement on others. I don't think anybody's aligned completely, but the majority of the council would have at least half.
Alder Mark?
I think it's important for us as a council, for the city administrator, whoever that person is, and for the community to know in advance, how is this key player in our government going to be evaluated? Whereas without the executive committee, it could be different every year. It would be simply based on whatever the mayor wants to do. And so I think it's valuable that we have that structure in place and that we have that stability and we know what's going to happen.
Alder Fisher?
I'll make my final plea. As we go through, we've only gone through 1 page of 4. What we're basically doing here is defining the role of the city administrator. And this doesn't mean Nathan, this just means any future administrators that may come up. As we go through the next 3 pages, we'll be discussing each one of the functions individually, which I think may, at the end, when we're done, have a much more complete description of what he is responsible for and what he is not responsible for. So therefore, maybe we should take our discussion of the new executive committee and move it to the last item, which would be G under section 2. In other words, put it at the very last thing we do is decide whether we need an executive committee after we've gone through the other 3 pages and know exactly what his description is going to be. Kick that around a little bit, see what comes up. Yeah.
Okay, or we can do a consensus right now.
Did you want to ask for an amendment or?
I'm gonna ask for a consensus of right now, who wants to put the executive committee in order, or who wants to wait till later? Because we need to make some progress. We've spent 15 minutes talking about it. So all in favor of voting on the executive committee portion of this now, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. And those opposed and want to wait till later? We have 4. Okay, so we are going to continue.
Yeah, that's all we need for now. Okay. I want to see the results of what they say.
Oh, yeah, that'll be with the other language. And I guess this whole ordinance, I mean, it's in pieces, so if we can get an idea about each piece and then we get to the end, we're gonna need to vote on the entire thing again anyway, right? And then it'll have the corrections in of any language that's changed. Was there any other discussion on executive committee?
Yes.
Alder Bonnet.
I'm somewhat perplexed by our process in talking about this because we're talking about the same thing every meeting. And we're not bringing it to a head. And I don't see what the big deal is. I'm a supporter of the executive committee for the reasons which it's proposed. And that is provide the first line review and the process for the city administrator. That's the purpose of that clause. And whatever that executive committee decides comes back to the council. And there's no independent action, but it gives an opportunity to feedback of the executive for the city on the good, the bad, the ugly. It gives them a chance to respond to that in that smaller forum. And that smaller forum brings it back to the whole group. In terms of stacking the deck and all that, we have chairman of administrative, we have chairman of operations appointed by the mayor, but guess what? In April, we all reviewed the list. And we voted on the committees and the chairman and everything else. So, it's like, what are we afraid of? Let's make the decisions and remember why. 2 years ago, or longer than that, 3 years ago, this council made the decision, let's hire a city administrator. Let's give him the authority. Mayor Gluin said, I'm willing to give up my full-time job to support the concept of a city administrator. And now 3 years later, we're debating on who reviews them and who's got the power. It seems kind of late to me. And, quite frankly, I'm tired of listening to it. And the banter is only a few people. We never hear from the majority of people sitting in this room. And so let's do a vote. Let's go up and down and decide. And whatever it is, I'm willing to live with it, no problem. But I'm just tired of going back and forth the same words. So I'm sorry for the babble, but that's where I am.
Is that a motion, Joe?
What, babble? Yeah, I make a motion, I babble.
No. Is that a motion to accept the portion of the ordinance that talks about executive committee?
I would make that motion.
Is there a second to that? Alder Hiley's got a second. Okay, I'm gonna call for a vote. You wanna do a roll call?
So we're gonna vote on adopting the executive committee as written is,
Just generally right now.
It'll be amended.
I'll fit, when we do the revisions as we move forward. There seems to be a full consensus that it's important that it be clear that if they're making recommendations to the council, not final decisions, and then
okay,
I'll clarify that.
you're good?
Are
Okay.
we ready?
Yes.
Keel?
Aye.
Kay had a question, but
I had a
Sorry.
question. Before we started the vote, you didn't see my hand.
Okay, I'm sorry. ahead.
Okay. Again, I am concerned about the transparency. Can you assure me about that if we vote yes, that the transparency will be rewritten so that this committee is responding to the Common Council for final
Yeah,
decisions?
you'll get to review the language. I think the sense right now is, let's get past the question of whether to or whether not to. And then we'll have additional discussion about how we create that transparency.
Okay.
One more time.
Okay.
Keel?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Perkins?
Aye.
Yads?
No.
Zap?
I,
Anderson?
Aye.
Appenfelt?
Aye.
Cornett?
Aye.
Burnett?
Aye.
Fisher? Hiley?
Aye.
Well, it's 9 o'clock.
Yeah, that part is very good. It looks like at our July 1st meeting, we will continue this ordinance and we'll get into the city administrator language as far as the position and goes. Also at that time, I have been working with attorney Zoc, the personnel attorney, and I will have a sample evaluation form that the committee can work on as soon as we get this ordinance done. There's a review process that, coming from his conversation when he was here last, he's sent to me. So we'll get that out to you too to check over. So guess we're looking for a motion to adjourn. Mr. Burnett,
Make a motion to adjourn.
is there a second? Alder Perkins.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is there any declining vote? Hearing none, we're adjourned.